already, maybe just because this is what they've seen already, this is what they've been able to scout, and they're going to try to move forward from there. You do see that Niightmare Esports going to go ahead and focus down on that marksman lane now that they've already picked up Claude. It does look like they are trying to force out the carry, maybe trying to, like as we've been saying, carry big pick rate, but just has not been able to capture that win rate, sitting at about like 20% right now. But they're going to go ahead and pick it up. Fireflux very confident in their ability for it. The only problem sometimes I see with a carry is that she really shines. She's built specifically for those tanks, for those heavier hitters, those ones that are a little slower, because her range is not exactly the largest and the longest. So when you have other abilities or people or characters on the enemy team like Claude, like Valentina, like Cece, who can kite you away or who can close the distance on you very quickly, it might prove a little bit of a problem, especially if you don't have a front line, which is what I'm going to probably be looking for Niightmare Esports. And yeah, we have one right there with a Grok, who actually, I want to say this is probably the third time that we have seen him here in the games of the future.
Well, the Grok is a really decent pick, but the Dyrot here as a jungler is pretty much fitting in this trap somehow, because playing on the physical defenses of your enemy and also seeing that they have a really decent amount of HP that he can easily melt down like the Brats, and also on the other hand, now they didn't use a tank that can apply crowd control. They have summoned the one and only Estes. The Blacklist International Special is here. So they want to play on the sustainability, which is really good actually. Having that Brats, they can make a really decent combo in the mid lane. He can also make up for this range for carry to join in without fearing of losing her own HP. So the Estes pick is really good, but once the Estes is targeted out, I think it's gonna be really hard. And also, there's something I want to add here. Novaria is one of those mid laners that can move freely throughout the game in the mid lane clearance and everything else, but Estes isn't. So I would expect to see Estes being used as, we say it like that, babysit the gold lane.
Yeah, I expect him to, I expect the Estes to be riding right behind Barats on Detna right now, because as you said, the mid right now, Novaria, very mobile, so not really going to be benefiting from a lot of the healing if they are keeping a proper distance from the fight. Novaria has one of the longest ranges of any of the mages here, able to use those astral spheres from a huge distance to do a ton of damage onto them. But ladies and gentlemen, we are about to see game one of Niightmare Esports taking on Flux. Right now, this series going to decide which one of these teams moves on ahead and which one will be going home.
Well, right now we can see Flux Esports on the right-hand side with the red team, with the second pick, and also with a really different kind of draft, the one that I was used to see. Apex47 not using his crowd control heroes and applying and making the Estes here, like making his way through with that Estes here. Also, I think this is the first time seeing an Estes in the tournament. Apex47, Rosa in the mid lane, facing Suso and also Jasmine. It's gonna be really tough for Rosa to stand up against two in his lane, in the mid lane, because Grok will always clear out this wave really fast with using the first kill. On the jungle, there hasn't been any kind of force or any kind of invade whatsoever. Alien and Jack. I think this is gonna be a really interesting XP lane, since both of these picks are actually banned heroes.
Oh, actually, Alan gonna get caught here, is trying to dash himself to safety. You can see Ben just sitting there waiting to put on the damage, and unfortunately for Flux Esports, that's gonna be a first blood for Niightmare, but they're gonna go ahead and try to make Jasmine pay for it. You can see he's down to about 10% health. A flicker used by Rosa, still trying to get the auto attacks, and he decides his fate shall need to be decided by a tower.
Oh my god, he made it personal. Rosa made it personal with Jasmine. He did use his flicker just to get that kill secured for Flux Esports, and right now they will be in advantage for taking that first turtle, but they have to make sure that too easy for Lexi isn't able to reach the retribution though.
Yeah, you see Lexi actually able to come in there from the side, snatch that away from Fireflux. You just talked about it, and that was unfortunate too because you had Rosa trying to teleport home, Alien wasn't there yet, and you had 4 members from Nightmare over there trying to press their advantage and get that frustration out of Fireflux, and it paid off as they were able to steal away that turtle.
Using that Grok to annoy the junglers is a really good tactic, but when it comes to assassin junglers, here seeing a utility jungler such as the Barats, I think it's gonna be really hard for Jasmine to be annoying as he thinks he can be, but Tennessee uses the ult.
Yeah, Jasmine is going to have to use that wild charge to get himself back to safety. A wall is actually going to split up the Fireflux. He has been absolutely, actually very surgical with with all of the walls he's been using here. Once before to go ahead and isolate and keep that buff very close so that he could try to steal it, and then just isolating it so that Apex gets separated from his herd and almost actually in a little bit of trouble there. But thankfully, they're able to still keep it at 1-1 apiece.
Well, I think I would take a little bit back of what I said, saying that the Grok wasn't as successful as it needs to be after seeing the gap between both junglers. But here, he's trying to farm both lanes with the Claude, and going back to my point, I was saying that look at the XP gap when it comes to Tennessee, and also on the other hand, for Too Easy to Lexi, he was level 7 while Tennessee was level 5, moving around the map with the 2-man combo. Tennessee and also Apex 47 are making sure that their team are getting the help they need in any lane they are asking for. Well, there is something that's really quite interesting that I've mentioned yesterday, and it goes like this. If you made a mistake with an assassin hero as a jungler, it's so hard to recover, but if you made a mistake while using a utility hero as a jungler, it's not that hard to recover.
Yeah, and that's true, especially when it comes to like assassins and stuff. Well, we do have a match coming, or a little bit of a fight coming here. Jasmine does get popped up. Detna's welcome. It's going to spit him back out. Lexi able to find another secure onto the turtle. And I just want to say the rotations right now from Nightmare have been so good, especially because Jasmine has been doing such a great job on this bin, making sure that he can refuse farm to the marksman up at the top, and both marksmen have now switched down to the bottom. And I think we're going to start seeing it in the gold discrepancy between Sunshine and Kami.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And looking at Too Easy for Lexi 2 times in a row, using his ultimate, the one that got a little bit of adjustment in the latest patch, not being able to be cancelled. But looking here, they want to get the kill on the CC.
Yeah, Jack in a little bit of trouble here, putting on the damage. Is going to go ahead and try to create that distance. Getting a lot, activates the Vengeance, but it's not enough to save him from 3 members of Fireflux. And this is going to be the first tower of the game.
On the other side though, Niightmare Esports are trying, and they did make that trade possible. Yes, they lost one of their members, but they took the bot lane. Too Easy for Lexi, applying some damage.
Yeah, and you can see here Jasmine in a little bit of trouble, gets popped up, and he is not long for this world as Rosa finds a kill there. The blessing of the Moon Goddess from Apex, able to keep the entire team healed and topped up through that fight. 1-3 in favor of Fireflux from Turkey.
After switching between both laners on the XP and the gold lane, I didn't see that much of a use for carry, especially because they gave all the resources, Fireflux Esports, towards the top lane and taking CC down and taking her turret down. But on the other hand, they have lost the only turret that actually can save carry from any invade. So maybe, just maybe, we might see another switch between those two. But speaking of which, and now looking at the timer, we have 6 minutes and 30 seconds almost into the game, and the second turtle has respawned.
Yeah, and we can already see, I was talking about the gold discrepancy that we were going to be seeing. Carry sitting 1K behind the Claude. Cammy doing such a good job. Now we have the turtle fight here. Half health. Fireflux trying to zone up. A Nightmare coming in. Big final slash lands, and Lexi able to get another turtle. A final slash is out with the blessing of the Moon Goddess to keep the team healed up, and they are trying to give chase, but the mobility of Nightmare is too much.
5 men pushing in the mid lane against just 2 from Team Niightmare Esports. And looking here, Alien might just take it. They do withdraw and they do go to their own laning duties. It seems like it's really too easy for Lexi to take all of these turtles.
Oh man, you can see that damage coming out from Sasul, and I do believe I saw an Abyssal Strike come out there from Lexi, which was able to take Tenzi down. I mean, even it doesn't matter how tanky you are, especially with how that Lexi is going to be able to burst through a lot of the armor with that Dairoth.
So far, we haven't seen a Flicker Final Slash, one of the classics that our Lord can provide to us. And 60 seconds into, and the Lord will respawn, the first Lord of the game. But it seems like there will be a lot of pressure on the top lane. There might be a surprise coming from Jasmine. Nope, there's no surprise. They just made sure that Flux Esports knows that they are claiming that turret, and that turret is what they have got. In the mid lane, they are still trying to apply some pressure. Flux Esports are seeking solutions, even though the game, when it comes to numbers, almost seems even, but 3-2 with 3k behind when it comes to gold.
Ooh, Detna's welcome does land. Tenzi does spit him out. Lexi gets taken out very quickly. Now, the one thing for me is that this Ubi strat of healing up your team and like keeping them grouped up is working for Fireflux. However, it doesn't matter if your team is not landing these retributions. If you're starting to get out gold, like right now, most of the objectives have been going over to Niightmare Esports. Lexi just doing such a great job of getting in there and being able to snatch those objectives away from Fireflux Esports to the point where they're actually behind, despite how well they're doing in some of the team fights.
Fireflux also, speaking of team fights, we might see a team fight being forced here, just using the Lord as an excuse for them. Fireflux and also Niightmare are preparing to go into that Lord pit, and as you said earlier on today and in the draft, the Lord range is now so much smaller than it used to be before, so there is no Lord dances that can last long, only claiming that either zoning the enemy completely out or wanting to take that Lord with a fast, with applying all the damage and all the resources of your team to take it as fast as possible. Speaking of being fast as possible, we can see here that the Cloud already have his Demon Hunter Sword, the Golden Staff, and everything he needs for the early game damage. And looking at the carry, she's 1.5k behind just from the Cloud.
Yeah, this Lord actually might go over. They're going to try a big pop-up. Lexi gets the Lord another objective for Niightmare Esports. The pride of Lausch giving it to Fireflux right now. You can see that blazing duet going into the back lines. Kami finds a kill onto Alien. Tenzi gets taken down by Jack, and Kami still is not done. He is hungry for blood. Apex goes down. That is 4 members down for Fireflux Esports as Night are taking it to the mid tower. Let's take a look at that replay. Look at the big pop-up that's going to happen. Or actually, this is after the Lord fight as they continue in there. That blazing duet shredding them from behind. Kami takes 1 kill, but he's not done. He focuses down Apex as he tries to get to the safety of the tower.
A huge miscommunication happening between Alien and Tennessee in the previous moment in the recent replay. Both of them were affected by CC's ultimate, and both of them didn't move together, so they both went down. And not just that, they lost the Lord, so all the retribution battles have been won by too easy for Lexi. And not just that, they also won the team fight by almost wiping out Fireflux Esports, taking everything that could possibly be taken for them. All the secondary turrets are down, and the mid lane inhibitor turret is also affected and already without its own passive. So far, even though Private, the game is, again, when it comes to kills, it's even. But when it comes to strategy, so far Niightmare Esports is winning. Why do you think they are the one in control? Is it just because of the retributions?
It's not just the retributions. It's the fact that Fireflux Esports, when it comes to a lot of these fights, Niightmare knows exactly what they need to do. They charge in at the right time. You have the Jasmine comes in with that charge as well to pop up right at the moment that you're supposed to be retrying, and then you have Lex coming in with the Abyssal Strike and the Retribution to try to double his odds. You have the entire team working in fast with the jungler to make sure that once it gets to the point where you're supposed to be retrying, they're doing everything they can to push away, stun, pop up TNZ to give Lexi the best opportunity he has to be able to get those retributions.
And looking at, ooh, they did?
Yeah, Detna's welcome comes out here. Jasmine in a little bit of trouble, down to about 10%. He's gonna have to use that wild charge to get himself away, and gets away safety.
Whoa, that was so close. I almost thought that he's out of the range of Kennedy, but looking at the itemization from the side of Niightmare Esports, I've just saw that they already have the Sea Helper, also the Necklace of Durance and the Dominance Eyes. They are completely taking down the healing effect from Fireflux Esports, and right now seeing that second Lord spawning in the Land of Dawn, the first enhanced Lord in this game, and the one that can make a huge effect if it have been taken by Niightmare Esports. If they did win this retribution battle, if even they lost the Lord but got the team fight, they might just end this game while they are hot.
Well, the thing is here too is on the side of a Niightmare Esports, you have Sissel who can come out with a final slash of their own because they can steal it. Jasmine has the wild charge that he can use too to kind of pop them up. And on the side, I feel like on the side of Fireflux, when it comes to some of these Lord fights, that's one of the things that they didn't factor is being able to protect Tenzi or being able to offset Niightmare Esports when it comes to a lot of these fights. Because I want to say, you can still see Niightmare Esports, they're not really looking for a fight. They're coming in, they're grabbing some of these lords, and they're grabbing some of these objectives, and then they're kind of backing off unless they have a real big advantage. You can see here now them starting to step up. The Lord at about 10% down. We've already started healing Apex right now, or Apex is already starting to heal. We do have Rosa giving vision, letting them know where the rest of them are on the map, and you're going to see as soon as this Lord starts to get low, the rest of the team's going to come in and try to give Lexi an opportunity. From the back, you can see Kami standing up front, and the Lord has already been reset. And now the rest of Niightmare Esports, you can see Kami goes down to the bottom trying to get his stacks, and the rest of the team starting to split up a bit.
Taking some HP back, Kami, after losing a lot of his HP, and giving and providing vision from Jasmine is just remarkable. Team Fireflux Esports cannot go into that Lord fight. They are just not prepared, and what's really just like roaming around my head right now, Susol didn't steal any ultimate from Fireflux Esports. So what are they actually planning on? Maybe they will go on the opposite side of the lane. Claude is the only person, or like the only marksman who's allowed to go and split bush, but here Fireflux goes, and Jasmine giving a lot of vision.
Yeah, Jasmine does land the wild charge there. Pops up too. Blessing of the Moon Goddess is out, healing up the rest of the team. Sunshine able to find a kill onto Sissel. This actually might be the advantage that Fireflux needed before this Lord fight. Out comes the vision from Rosa. They're trying to hunt down Lexi. You can see the zigzags out there, and doing a great job of protecting him is Niightmare Esports. So they're able to get back, but this is a Lord fight that might be going to Fireflux.
Leaving the split bushing, or like the opposite laning clearance, causes Niightmare Esports the loss of the first inhibitor turret due to minions. Minions clearance, ladies and gentlemen, was better from the side of Fireflux Esports, taking that Lord, and for the first time, and also, and this is funny actually to say, Tennessee didn't even have the retribution this time. So I'm not gonna say Tennessee won a retribution battle, even retributed this Lord. He just took the Lord without any kind of contesting from on the side of Nightmare Esports. The Lord is marching from the top lane, and I think that it is so dangerous to defend this Lord, especially with having the Estes on the opposite side of the map. Susul must do something. Maybe that thing is to steal the Estes ultimate.
Oh, we can see right here, they are starting to put the pressure onto Nightmare Esports. Tenzi up front, taking all the damage. Not too far off behind him is Apex, trying to give off a lot of that healing. Luminous Lord up at the top. You can see the rest of Nightmare Esports trying to contend with it to burst it down. Now, that last fight, they did something different. Fireflux realized what they don't want is a 50-50 shot here because they cannot compete. We do have a flicker with the final slash. In comes a blazing duet. Kami gonna put the finishing touches. Jasmine goes down. Alien is down. That is a 1-for-1 right now as they are continuing. Sunshine finds a kill onto Lexi. Tenzi up in the front, still trying to take the damage. You can see Apex comfortably behind him with those heals. And this might be the end for Nightmare Esports if they can continue on this pressure. More minions charging up at mid. Sunshine comes in, looking for some damage. We're starting to get onto the core. Half health, down to about a third, 10%. This might be it. Nightmare Esports trying to push back. Rosa finds a kill onto the marksman, and this is game. Fireflux Esports come back with a game. This is going to be game 1 for them.
This is a really interesting game of going back and forth between giant teams, and in this final touch, it just needed a perfect finish for such a fairy tale, using the Wind of Nature, using the Estes ultimate, also synchronizing all the minion waves just to enter in the same second and applying all the pressures from every and each lane upon Nightmare Esports. After seeing that victory upon them, they just saw how does winning looks like, but just in a matter of seconds, Fireflux Esports took the win.
Yeah, and it's exactly what I was talking about. They saw very quickly. It took a few objectives for them to realize that they're not going to be able to compete with Nightmare if you go 50-50 on the retribution. Nightmare just had too many tools to offset, to push away the jungler, to pop up the jungler, while they were going to be able to use that Abyssal Strike and the retribution to capture a lot of these objectives. So now, when that Lord Dance came, you saw them. They knew that they needed to at least get the numbers in their favor. They needed to get a hit. They needed to be able to get somebody down. They needed to get some kills onto the enemy before they could focus on the Lord. After that, it was basically a wrap because you have an Estes on your team. You don't have the opportunity for the enemy to flank you in any position because now they're facing you at a defense right now. They're all inside of their base. They're not able to come around on the side. They're not able to get to your back line, and that is where they shine. And they were able to push a very amazing push with their first Lord.
They did really indeed shine in this game, and coming back from a mistake in the early game, Fireflux were able to use this utility meta to its finest and show us why it's one of the strongest metas to play up against. But in this game, there is something that you have spoke about, and also I've been mentioning, the Arlet. I didn't sense the danger coming from the final slashes, neither the Arlet himself, because the only thing that the Arlet needed to do is to zone Nightmare Esports out. But during the whole game, there was like a 1 or 2 good final slashes. But when it comes to the XP laner duties by zoning the enemy out, I don't think that the Arlet was good enough in this game.
Well, the problem came from, I want to say there were some remarkable final slashes I saw, especially when it came to some of the turtle fights. Unfortunately for Fireflux, I want to say that Arlot's final slash came out a little early, and then Nightmare was able to use the Valentina, get that ultimate from him, and they used the final slash exactly when they needed to kind of stop the retribution from coming out from Fireflux. And I mean, it wasn't as big as an effect that most people would like when it comes to some of these teams, but useful nonetheless. You can see here in the early game a very dominant performance by Fireflux when it came to the kills. They were actually able to mount up a lot, especially when it came from the healing there. But when it actually came to the objectives, you can see here, able to steal it away despite the healing that was coming out. And then Niightmare did what they were supposed to, backed up. They weren't going to be winning a lot of these team fights, so they wanted to make sure that they got the objective and were able to kind of clear the way. Here's going to be another one where they have the Blessing of the Moon Goddess, and Tenzi still getting thwarted, is not able to get these retributions. But that is all going to change when we go to the Lord fight, which was absolutely amazing. This one actually almost looked like it was the end for Fireflux here. They got a four-man down, but you can see here, this is when it all changed.
Yeah.
You can see that Fireflux, they weren't trying to go for the Lord anymore. They were trying to bait out an engagement. They wanted to get the kills down so that they could get the numbers in their favor, and that is exactly what they did. Actually, a great play by Niightmare over there. You weren't able to see, but they get blocked from some of those kills there. But this was basically the beginning of the end for Niightmare Esports as Fireflux pushing in with the help. You can see Apex very close to the back there of Tenzi, making sure that his team is topped up and very safe, and there is just nothing to stop them from being able to take down the core.
And Sunshine, for me, was able to bring out a world-class performance using the Wind of Nature, positioning himself in a really good place in the team fight. But looking here, the MVP of this game is the Thorn Queen himself, Rossa from Fireflux Esports, with a 405 in terms of the KDA, 35% damage dealt. And looking at the items, it seems like he was almost there to finish all of the items that he needed to use all the damage to burst down all the troops or all the heroes from Niightmare Esports. Maybe he wanted to go for one more item, which was the Holy Crystal, but anyways, he have the Divine Glaive, the Glowing Wand, and everything else that goes with it to apply the damage he needed. And looking at the game, I want to actually see the items of Carry, because I think that Carry didn't play fully defensive, maybe a semi-tank, maybe even a full defensive item. So I'll be waiting to see those items from the previous game.
Yeah, Rosa did an absolutely great job, especially with that elongated last fight. Here we have the items, and you can see Carry there. I mean, a typical Carry build here, full damage for it. You do have the Golden Staff, Demon Hunter Sword, Wind of Nature, and the Malefic Roar. But the amazing thing here is that how well Kami was doing against Sunshine here, despite now, and then Fireflux still able to kind of come back. And that's kind of something that Niightmare might need to work on. They had the advantage, and unfortunately for them, not able to capitalize on it fully there. You can see 35% damage there by Rosa, 27 by Sunshine. So by the end, by that Lord fight, Sunshine, with all of the items, was able to start shining through despite the pressure that they were putting onto that lane. So an amazing job done there by Fireflux.
For me, the most remarkable statistic in the previous graph was the Estes using being inside 100% of the team fights. He was completely there. Apex47 was able to use the Estes, as I told you, to its full limit. At sometimes to force down a fight, at sometimes to disengage. But Niightmare Esports as well, sometimes we have seen them steal the objectives, mostly not contest the objectives, just steal and disengage. And they were able to do it every single time perfectly, especially in the first 3 turtles and also in the Lord pets in the first Lord. But in the second Lord, they weren't lucky enough because Apex47, with his positioning, was able to heal all of his members. And in the last scene from that game, in the last minute from that game, it was a perfect executed end game for Fireflux Esports, sinking all the waves, using all their heroes with the itemization, and at some point, even Kami, with selling his boots and going for full damage with all the itemization just for damage, he wasn't able to deal any amount of damage, because not just Apex47 healed up the Carry, but also Carry used the Wind of Nature to sustain herself. For me, that was a perfect game, a close one, not a one-sided game as some people might have expected.
Yeah, other things for Nightmare to work on, but I mean, very close. It just came down to a point where Nightmare was kind of trying to avoid fights, and if your entire composition is kind of based around trying to avoid fights, there's gonna come the bell comes the toll comes due at some point where you're going to need to fight for an objective, fight for a lord, and you're going to need to have something there. And unfortunately for some of those picks, I want to say the Dairoth really shines in those pickoffs, in those laning phase where you can like an assassin. But once you start getting into those team fight territory where everybody's away from the lord, or where everybody's away from their lanes and everybody's kind of grouped up, Dairoth is going to have some issues because he's very squishy, very susceptible to a lot of CC. And especially when it comes to an Estes fight, you're going to need something to be able to take him out. And we started seeing, as Estes started getting those items, as those heals started getting a little bit stronger, Nightmare was having a bigger problem being able to push away Fireflux. They're going to be able to switch sides here now. So we're going to see if they each, or any of these teams, have a different plan in mind for this game 2 to hopefully take this to a game 3.
Even though, speaking of the Estes, even though they bought all the possible anti-heal items in terms of the damage, when we talk about the Nicholas of Durance, also the Sea Halbert, also the Dominance Ice, they weren't able to stop Apex 47 from being one of the most annoying, if not for their team, the most annoying hero and player in their lineup. Well, in the next game, would you think that we might see a ban when it comes to the Estes himself? Because I cannot help but to remember Blacklist International at this moment, because this is their signature hero, which was applied by Fireflux against Blacklist themselves in the previous M5. So here in Games of the Future 2024, and for the 1 million prize pool, would you think that we will continue seeing extraordinary picks? And in the upcoming, I know it's two, like there are two questions, but the extraordinary picks, and would you think that we will see also Estes getting banned?
Well, I feel like Estes was a pick based on the Barat's pickup. He's one of the prime examples of the tanky, sustain heroes that can be in that jungle position. So I'm thinking we might see a Barat's pickup, or because like Estes, I'm not sure that right now is ban worthy. As far as seeing like extraordinary different picks here, I mean, we've just started, so I'm sure we're gonna start seeing some different ones out there. There were some counters that could have been done, maybe to kind of try to match it. I'm not sure how well Boxia matches up against the Barats, but I do know Boxia does very well against healing type characters, so maybe that might have been an option in there as well. But I do notice that a lot of times when we have been prioritizing a lot of XP laners, XP laners usually have the setting potential for our team. That's where it delegates on how well you're going to do during the objectives. However, sometimes you give up setting potential for backline dive, and that's what I've been noticing a lot with some of the compositions here, is that when they'll grab that Arlot, or they'll grab somebody else who can kind of get in the front, get those little get that tankiness, we give up that pick like a Yuzong, or something that can get into the backline that would be able to help you maybe get a snatch away at that Estes, or those marksmans, or those mages that are squishy enough. But we're gonna go and see what changes we have here for the second draft.
Well, the second draft is quite surprising to me, because right now, yes, the Paquito isn't banned and he is taken at the first phase of drafting. Also, as a first pick for Fireflux Esports, they got the Claude. So if they wanted the Claude that much, why didn't they get it earlier on in the previous game, or even get it at all? They left it open until the first phase have been completely done by Nightmare Esports. But anyway, they want to make a certain strategy here, and now it makes more sense to me. Using that Brody is also questionable, because why would you take the marksman also so early? The enemy's marksman is already open, and you know what you are dealing with. Having the Faramis for extra sustainability, and having the Fredgen cannot make me stop wondering, will I see an Estes again?
Well, the thing for me is Fireflux Esports snatches up the Claude early because in the last game, during the drafting phase, Nightmare Esports picked up their marksman early and then banned out a lot of marksmen
Yeah.
for Fireflux. So with Fireflux picking up the Claude here, I think Nightmare Esports was afraid of the same thing happening to them, where they're going to get a lot of marksmen banned out from them. And I want to say maybe Cammy is very specific in what he wants to use during this. And then, of course, we just saw the Claude picked up because it's one of the big counters when it comes to a Faramis and that Nether Realm. So it's all starting to kind of slowly come together here for them. A big priority for Nightmare Esports being placed onto the Paquito, banned in the last match, picked up during this one. An amazing amount of damage that he can output in that early game. And I want to say maybe something a little bit lacking in the last composition. While they had the CC, they didn't exactly have a ton of damage in that early game to kind of really offset Fireflux, to really keep them on the back foot. Like I said, they were stealing Lords. They were still losing fights. They were, I want to say it was like 6-2, 6-4. They still had a big lead in the gold, but it was very apparent where a lot of those fights were going. So right here, maybe trying to address that, get that damage out there with the Paquito and a Lilia pick.
Well, I think that it's enough for Nightmare Esports with the damage. They already have the physical damage and already have the burst damage, the magical one. But when it comes to Team Nightmare, I think that they are lacking a lot of face-checking heroes. They want someone to go inside. Maybe the Bakir will be used as a jungler, but mostly he's gonna be on the XP lane. So they need someone to take in some damage, and in this composition, it can help two different. Now it makes more sense. I was going to say that both teams work with the Minotaur or even with the Tigreal, but both these picks have been already banned because both of these teams are lacking front laners and area crowd control. So maybe you will see something interesting from both teams. Maybe you'll see a pick-off hero like the Kaja to serve the combination that Team Nightmare Esports are trying to make and pull off. But Fireflux on their side, again, I'm thinking of sustainability, but anyways, let's continue with the draft. Looking here at the second phase of banning with the Tigreal, with the Minotaur taking out like both highly effective tanks that can work in both composition. Bartz also joins from the side of Team Nightmare Esports.
Yeah, and you can see both taking out a lot of those big tanky CC machines. Minotaur taking off there, Tigreal as well. Very interesting that Diggy has not been banned yet, especially since right now, both compositions are leaning more towards a lot of damage and sustain. Something that Diggy really doesn't qualify for. They don't really have a lot of CC, don't really have a lot of I want to say stuns out there. They're just looking to be able to kind of engage, get that damage in, and try to escape. Very smartly, Nightmare Esports does take out the Barats because, I mean, they definitely, like I said, Estes probably not high on the ban list, but Barats still has many options at his disposal to be able to kind of keep up that sustain, keep up that tankiness during those fights. And we saw big examples of how tanky and how well he can do in these fights in that last game.
Well, for me, I think that for Fredrin, he can carry on the early game. The sustain will make them go into the mid game and also will make them be able to defend and either or also force down a fight and the Claude in the late game. So far for Fireflux, I'm completely agreeing with the draft. But on the side of Nightmare Esports, again, I think that yes, he can carry on the early game. Mart's also beside the Lilia, but he cannot take in that much, or like he cannot be the face-checking hero for Nightmare Esports. So right now we will see that they have used the Vixana and switched the Faramis. Okay, they switched the Faramis to the room, and no, when I looked at the Arlet, I almost took back my words, but the Arlet will be used on the XP lane. So it's pretty confusing because we haven't seen a Faramis room in a really long time.
Yeah, that is interesting too. I did think it was going to be going in the mage position, but that just kind of shows the flexibility of Fireflux's picks here is that now they're going to have a pretty decent amount of damage for the Vexana, especially when it combined with somebody like Fredrin, who's got the taunt that he can use to kind of keep everybody close. That's going to be prime time for Vexana to be laying down a ton of that damage, that Eternal Guardian as well. What we see on the side of Niightmare Esports is the possibility of trying to get those one and dones. They're going to try to get those little ganks in, pull them back, but the only problem here is that when you have a Franco, you're going to land a hook. It kind of needs to be a Vexana, because if it's not Vexana, you're going to land a hook, bring it back. Maybe you go ahead and put the suppression on it, but you're basically making you and your team a target for all of the abilities that Vexana can lay down on you, the pop-ups, the CC, the Eternal Guardians that are going to be swinging on you. So it's going to be very tricky. A lot of boxes for Niightmare Esports from Lao to be able to make this a successful fight against Flux.
It is a very tricky pick and also a very smart one, because if you looked at the Franco, he's one of the suppression heroes. His ultimate is unescapable, so he can take down the Cloud. But again, he will force the enemies to use Purifies. We will see right now, oh, they don't even have Purifies. So they have chosen to let and to bet on not hitting those Iron Hooks from Jaspin. But on the other side, you don't want to take in a lot of damage from Niightmare Esports. Anyways, we are 1 minute into the game. Flux Esports up against Niightmare Esports. Decide who's gonna proceed in this match.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of damage coming out from Jasmine right now, trying to make a little bit of an escape. But like you were talking about, like while that bloody hunt is basically you can't get out of it, no matter, even if you had to purify, Jasmine himself, Franco himself, can be stunned and feared out of it. Oh, speaking of which, we do land a little bit of a hook. Rosa going to expend that flicker to get himself back out of harm's way. Epix takes a little bit of damage from Lexi, who is now in the jungle, and you can see that fear doing its work. Such a huge amount of CC for such a little character, and we're going to start seeing it be come more and more into play as we move into the mid game.
Both mid laners didn't buy the room yet, so there must be something being prepared from Flux Esports, because I was looking so closely above their head, their tiny heads. I didn't see any roaming item being used either by Apex 47 or by Rosta, and having the Vexana on Apex 47 means that he will be also again the roamer, so it's a Vexana room.
Yeah, very interesting too. I mean, I believe they didn't buy it early because they just wanted to make sure that they could get the maximum amount of farm to their roam. Hopefully, like right after this first turtle, the roam picks up that level 4, can become an issue. Vexana gonna have the Eternal Guardian, as we were talking about that Tenzi here getting locked onto. We were talking about that damage. Out comes the Appraiser's Wrath. Tenzi able to match it up with the Retribution to snatch away this turtle from Niightmare.
That was so clean from the side of Tensei, using the Retribution and applying it for the first time in 2 games and getting that contest between him and Too Easy for Lexi, even though Too Easy for Lexi have the second skill, also the immunity that comes with it, and the Retribution. Again, Tensei was the one who settles down the turtle fight. 3 minutes into the game and no casualties for both teams, almost the same farm for both teams, and everything looks so quiet on both sides. Niightmare Esports are still seeking an opportunity, and this opportunity will be served to them just by the Franco, because he's the only one who can make a surprise attack. There's no face checking heroes in this game. There's no one to take in some damage. Niightmare Esports are totally relying on their heavy guns and their damage.
Yeah, you can see already taking down that big taunt coming out from Tenzi, and chunks down 2 members of Niightmare down to about half health. Justin caught rotating here, does land a bunch of damage from Apex, and the Appraiser's Wrath gonna finish the job. That's gonna be a first blood for Flux.
On the bot lane though, they want to, oh my god, they are going in.
Yeah, they go in there, and this is what we were talking about. A lot of that damage, a lot of that CC, that comboing that you can get from Apex. All that Tenzi needs to do, go in, get a taunt off, walk out. Meanwhile, you have Apex there, able to throw down some CC. The fear comes out, and then the Eternal Guardian. And Cammy can do nothing but zigzag back and forth, confused until he is down and sent back to base.
Oh my god, looking at the clock, getting fed up from Flux Esports, and this Iron Hook doesn't land upon Sunshine. Sunshine is moving so swiftly and not seeing literally a single purify from Flux Esports terrifies me, even as a viewer, not just as a caster. So any try or any attempt from Jasmine to hook someone, it will be successful. But are they betting that they will hook, but yet force a team fight?
Yeah, out comes another Realm. Tenzi still able to get the Lord, finds a kill onto Jasmine, and Lexi and Jack are trying to get away here. As Fireflux give chase, we do have a flicker in. Alien able to find a kill onto Lexi, turned that around on him, and now it is 4-0. Nightmare Esports in a bad spot, while the rest of Fireflux starting to claim purple buffs, starting to claim towers, and enforce their will onto Nightmare's side of the jungle.
Well, this is the all I wanna see, and this game, Alien has answered me. Look at the mid lane. This is the turret that you don't expect to see falling down in a matter of 5 minutes. But going back to a point I was just raising, the Franco is a really dangerous pick. He can take one off, and that's why he's called a pick-off hero. But once he hooks someone, maybe it will be lethal for Nightmare Esports to follow up upon this hook, because with a flicker final slash, or even with an ultimate or a first kill or anything that has used with the crowd control, they can cancel out all what Nightmare Esports are planning. So Flux Esports, when we go inside the game, when we go and proceed minute by minute, their draft makes more sense to me, and it's easy to execute, having 3k gold lead, and right now 4-0 with cleaning out that mid lane first turret.
Well, that's the problem too with Nightmare Esports. There's a lot of boxes that need to be checked for them to be successful. The stars literally need to align, because Justin can throw a hook into anywhere, but he has a bigger chance of actually landing that hook onto Tenzi. Oh, Jack down the bottom, gets caught. Tenzi finds another kill. That is 5-0. A very dominant game, very different from the last one from Nightmare Esports and Fireflux here. But as I was saying, you have a bigger chance of catching Tenzi with the correct positioning, because he's going to be up in front. If you catch him, hook him, bring him back to your team, you have a bigger chance of getting that taunt onto all of your team. The damage that Tenzi can put out, the tankiness that he has. Yeah, we're going to see right now. He's trying to get a good position there. Tenzi still able to get the turtle. Lexi going to try to use that mortal coil to get him and his team out of harm's way. They are going to back up, but you can see here already the damage is starting to be done. Tower at the mid is opening up the map. They're going to go ahead and try to get this purple buff, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get invaded.
It doesn't seem too easy for Lexi anymore when it comes to the retribution battles, when it comes to getting inside those turtle bits. He cannot contest against Tenzi when it comes to the retribution this game. Looking here at the turrets, looking here at the itemization, we will notice that Fireflux Esports are so far ahead, even though we are just 8 minutes into the game. And look at the items Claude already have. Oh, an Iron Hook.
Yeah, we do see the Nether Realm come out, and that's the problem. You land the Iron Hook, you're going to have to deal with the Nether Realm and the rest of the team. Apex able to find a kill on to Jasmine as well. And that is the danger. You land the hook, but now you have to deal with the entire team diving in on you, especially supported by the Nether Realm.
Oh my god, the Iron Hook. It seems like it's working against Nightmare Esports. They did land an Iron Hook with a flicker, a really smooth one, but he's overestimating his HP. Tenzi plays with fire, and Nightmare Esports go back after losing one of their first and initial turrets. And look at Sunshine. He's just taking one more and added up there in the score for his team.
Yeah, and this is unfortunate for Niightmare Esports because, I mean, you're losing that early game advantage. Lexi already not getting damage items. He's already started trying to get defensive items, as we saw there. The Marksman, Sunshine, already sitting at about 2K gold above Kami right now. So they're having such a dominant performance here that there's not much that you can do, especially when you actually make a play. Hook does go just a little bit wide of Apex, and that's a purple buff that goes over to Flux as well.
When he lands an Iron Hook, he doesn't just need that Iron Hook to hit. He wants it to hit, and he wants to drag this player who have just been hooked back behind his own teammates, not just in the middle of them. He wants to drag it just far behind the front laners that he have, so that Niightmare Esports are able to apply any kind of damage. Sometimes when I see this Iron Hook, I'm actually afraid that Niightmare Esports won't be able to follow up. Each time he brought someone, he just brought a disaster to his team. No matter, even if he got a damage dealer, it's still working the other way, not working for the favor of Niightmare Esports. Anyway, looking here at the minions being synced once again and taking all the secondary turrets, including the bot and the top, and now looking forward to see the mid lane go down for Flux Esports. Niightmare Esports need to find a solution, and they need to find it so fast. Whether that solution was a single play or like a one-man miracle that's being pulled off, or even a team effort. The Lord didn't even march in, and the inhibitor turrets are in danger when it comes to Niightmare Esports.
Yeah, and this is just a surgical game, basically a class getting given right now on how to sync lanes, how to one by one take down towers, not expending, oh man, Justin tries to get a hook, still goes wide, and man, and this is unfortunate because there are just very few answers right now. You're basically waiting. Flux needs to make a mistake. Niightmare needs to be there to be able to capitalize on it. We do have an Eternal Guardian coming out there. Lexi gets taken down from the side. Alien finds the kill there. Now they are pushing in. Out comes a little bit more damage, and Jack able to take down Apex, and we might be able to turn this one around a little bit, but you can see Sunshine still able to take down that tower. 7-1 lead right now, just under a 10K gold lead.
Oh, a flicker final slash coming from Alien, but doesn't find any targets to be used upon. And look here, Sunshine just focused on pushing those turrets. The ultimate, the rescue didn't come fast enough from Rasa, so goes down Apex 47 for the first time in this game. And again, Mobile Legends is a strategical game. It's not a killing game. 7-1. This is not a massive lead, but when it comes to gold lead, we are almost 1K per minute ahead for Flux Esports, using that gold gap to its limit. And look here at the itemization. Claude is just having fun picking whatever he wants from the items, while on the other hand, Brody is trying his best to keep up with the Claude. The damage is just unbearable when it comes to this moment for Niightmare Esports.
Yeah, and you can see there what's from those items that Lexi never even able to take off with damage items. He is a full tank march. Oh, we do land a stun here. Suppression lands on it. Are they going to be able to take down Apex? Here comes the Nether Realm for the save, and they turn it around onto Niightmare, give chase, and find 2 kills instead.
Oh my god. Oh my god, just looks so hard for Niightmare Esports to come back from that. 4 members marching from the mid lane. They will not even go for the next Lord. They might just end it, and they might just end it. Now,
yeah, you can see Jasmine in trouble here. Jack and Lexi trying to create an escape here, but now the pressure is on. Minions coming in. Can they defend? Whoa. Lexi taking a heap of damage. In comes. Oh, that is going to be it for Jack. Minions not at the core just yet. A silent breath from the side of Niightmare Esports, as they're not going to need to defend it, but you have this Luminous Lord coming up as Flux, I mean, very quickly turn their sights on the Lord.
when it comes to breathing, I don't think that Nightmare Esports are even able to breathe at this moment. They cannot take a single breath when it comes to this game. Nightmare Esports are far behind, and Fireflux are just increasing the pressure in a suffocating manner. Fireflux Esports will just wait, freezing all the lanes out just to sink again all the minions to go inside the base and finish this once and for all with a 2-0 full sweep. But Nightmare Esports might just be able to pull off a miracle, because this is what they need to get back from such game. They need a miracle, and they need it now.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm not sure where that miracle comes from, unless we're talking about a comet coming and landing on Fireflux right now, because all members right now underfed, not enough items. You can see right here, the big Eternal Guardian comes in. Netherrealm is out, bursting down the side of Nightmare. And there goes the core. You can see it getting chunked down. That is going to be a clean sweep for Fireflux.
Fireflux Esports taking that second game without breaking a sweat, with a really solid draft and a really well done execution, taking 2 games into their favor. Well played for Fireflux Esports and Nightmare Esports. They need to find the solutions in the upcoming games. If they still have upcoming games, we will know after the end of this day who will play against who. But so far we know for sure that Fireflux Esports have proceeded to the next stage.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Nightmare. I mean, that was completely, I want to say, Fireflux just had every single counter ready, and unfortunately for Nightmare, the pick for the Franco, a lot of the picks came down, and it just wasn't enough. Every corner pretty much covered by Fireflux, and until we got to the end there, and it was a very, very dominant game by them. Very deserving. Fireflux moves on. Nightmare, unfortunately, will have to pack their bags. But man, let's talk about the success. What made Fireflux so successful there? Especially a big difference from the first game, where they were having trouble staying with the objectives. Not just staying with the objectives, but countering out a lot of those stolen objectives, where we would have Nightmare come in, be able to steal it, and then leave again. This time, they didn't have any of that. They had a lot of sustain, a lot of early game damage in the name of that Vaxana too as well, and especially comboed with the taunt that comes out from Fredrin. I mean, there really wasn't a lot that Nightmare was going to be able to do.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to the draft itself, I thought that we will see a counter-engage hero such as the Atlas. Maybe we'll see a Kufra, but the Kufra didn't make a lot of sense since the Lilia is on the opposite side. But again, we have seen the Vixana as a rumor for the first time, and after we finish this highlight, we want to talk about how many heroes have been really out of our minds when it comes to that draft so far in games of the future. But looking here and look, even though he landed an Iron Hook, he brought a disaster to his team, being forced to use a flicker out Kami and also taking that top lane tier. Tennessee have won all the retribution battles, and the damage from the Cloud with a Demon Hunter sword, with a golden staff, and with everything was able every and each time to surprise Nightmare Esports, melting down all their tanky heroes. You can imagine what happened to the squishy one. So Jaspin, think that Franco's pick was good, but it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, you can see here, even with an entire suppression that lands on the Apex, Fireflux very quickly able to close the distance, Netherrealm in, and then turn it around onto Nightmare. This being the final push here, Lord at the mid. It was pretty much a done game at that point. You can see here the MVP Tenzi making up for I want to say making up for some of those missed retributions during the first game here. Came back with a vengeance. 506, 32% damage dealt. That's pretty amazing for a Fredrin. That means especially he was able to get off a lot of those appraisers, wrath down, and especially when you're that far ahead, the tankiness, the ability of the team to try to whittle you down. The amount of time you have to be able to get that ultimate off is immense, and he used it basically on cooldown on the enemy, and I mean, you could see it there, 32% damage.
Even though he is a utility jungler, even though he shouldn't be dealing that much damage, and especially because he have two mages on his side. Yes, one of them were playing as a were played as a rumor, but you have two mages and a Claude, and you were already in the late game and you dealt 32%. That's remarkable. Tennessee takes his revenge in the second game, and looking here, it wasn't looking promising whatsoever for Niightmare Esports when it came to the turrets, because they haven't touched a single turret this game. So it was a full sweep, a clean game for Flux Esports, applying everything that they have been practicing on for the previous period of time since they have left the M5 World Championship. So, looking at these games, Private, and speaking of strange and awkward and surprising picks, can we add the Vixana room to the equation?
I'm not sure if Vexana Rome is, because Vexana has become a mainstay, but that by just having her on your roster, no matter what kind of position that you have her in, she's going to have a huge effect. The amount of CC she can put out, not just from the pop-ups from the Eternal Guardian, the frightening, or the fear that she can put onto enemies after she lands her abilities. And then not just that, but the damage that comes out there. It was a really good call, and unfortunately, especially for Franco, it just felt like there was never going to be an opportunity for Franco to win. Not just the Vexana, but also, I want to say, the call to have for Rammus out there as well. There were so many boxes checked for the side of Fireflux that they were going to be able to, that no matter what happened, they were going to be able to keep them topped up. They were going to still be able to do the damage. There was going to be an amount of CC that they're going to be able to lay down as long as they had Fredrin up in front. I mean, it was going to be just one of those matches that was going to be very dominant. I want to say just such a great draft there by Fireflux.
Well, I've just checked the groups, and Group C, it was a survival match for Fireflux Esports, and so they proceed to the next stage, and this was the last game for Niightmare Esports, so better luck in the next time, and Fireflux Esports are proceeding to the next stage to see who will they play against in the upcoming matches. We have a lot of exciting matches today. One of them still includes Blacklist. Also, we have Onyx. We have a lot of great matches to come and a lot of great drafts to, let's say, wait to see. And so far, Fireflux Esports is one of the most, I would say, developing teams I've seen in my life. I know this is a really big statement, but since ever they have showed up in the MLBB scene, and they were just getting better. And when I looked at the Turkish scene, they were the best, and there was no competitor. But this is my personal opinion. You might disagree with me. Like a lot of viewers might disagree with me. But Fireflux are really using their experience every and each time they get it.
Yeah, I think one of the big tests and combats of a team moving up to those higher echelons of pro play here in Mobile Legends is their ability to combat on the back foot. We saw it in the first game where they were losing Lords, losing Retributions, losing a lot of their objectives, but still hung tight to the plan that they had in mind. The Estes, the Ubi strat, the strat of making sure that everybody's topped up. We had to wait for Estes to get some of those items to make sure that his healing was all right. Even taking that huge loss at the last hurdle where they lost 4 of their members, they kind of kept their mind straight, especially when it came into that fight for the first Lord, where they were able to turn it around. They focused down the side of Niightmare Esports, and then from then on, as soon as they had the advantage, they ran with it very quickly. And then we saw again at the last match, like I said, there were some points where you have the Lord, you have the advantage, you get all of the towers down, but it's not it might not be exciting to not fight in the core at that point, But it's the safest thing to do to kind of back up. You have the advantage, and then wait for the next Lord so that you can push in for a decisive victory.
For me personally, I think that there are some teams that are momentum based. Like if they lost their momentum, if they lost their base, they will not be able to compete. And there are some teams who are really good and specialists when it comes to defending and coming back with the game. For Flux Esports, I think that they have a mix of both. At sometimes they were tested, and at sometimes they were in the lead. Yes, they didn't take the full advantage of it, but again, they kept competing. They kept their mind straight, as you said, or as you mentioned, and they were able to come back with the game, even though their jungler lost all the retribution battles, even though they have lost every objective that they